think my building is evolving. The word evolving is usually used when someone is hopeful about the direction something is going in. And usually, evolving is usually used in the context of something getting better, not worse. Sometimes it's worse, but we don't talk about that. Sometimes. And it feels kind of like Pokemon, with how usually when a Pokemon evolves, it becomes a white silhouette and it switches back and forth from the old and the new again and again and again and again and again until it finally settles on the new. Only with my building, it's more like it's settled on the new and the outward shell is there. The outward shell of the building or the style is done, is complete to a fair extent. And I would say that there are a couple of blocks I enjoy building with and some blocks I really don't enjoy building with, which is explainable later. But it's also kind of like a butterfly at the same time. Only rather than waiting and looking at a cocoon, staring at it for weeks, waiting for the beautiful butterfly to emerge out of it, the cocoon is already open. The butterfly is already out and flying about. Or maybe it's just crawled out of the cocoon and it's just standing there outside the cocoon like a statue. Again, the outside, or maybe the visual style of my building style is more or less complete to an extent. But the inside, what actually makes it feel alive, is what's finally coming into play. I guess it's kind of weird or kind of funny at the same time, maybe a little bit of ironic sprinkled in to make the meal feel whole. My building style itself was something pretty recent. Recent within the, past year or so. Maybe 2 years, give or take. It happened when I actively stopped trying to copy the well-known and famous YouTubers. You know them, I know them, don't we all? I stopped watching tutorials because some of those tutorials I've watched 10 plus times and tried to do everything the tutorial said to do, and it still didn't click. Not necessarily because the tutorial itself was terrible and it was bad. Some of them were very, very well explained and the techniques worked on paper and in the game to an extent, but they weren't it for me. They didn't fit what I wanted to do, and it didn't help that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I watched them a lot. Too many times, actually. Hoping that the more I watched the tutorial, the more the principle or concept would make sense, the more it made sense, the more I would do it, the better I'll become, the more admired my buildings would be. That didn't play out the way I thought it was going to. Some builds have actually felt worse because I was trying to regurgitate what I saw in the tutorial. Eventually I got tired of the tutorials and I stopped. I stopped looking on how to build houses, starter houses, kind of lost interest for the whole watch a tutorial, redo the exact thing in your world, and feel proud of it. There wasn't really a sense of pride, even though I followed the tutorial. It was more like I just successfully copied and pasted. Yay. But I guess it also feels like my art, seeing as I'm also an artist, where I got tired of making cool, still artwork and wanted to do something more, wanted my art to feel moving, wanted it to speak something, anything, rather than just be a frozen image of a character trapped in a canvas, forced to keep that pose for the rest of eternity. Yeah, that got dark really quick. But I wanted it to speak, and I guess my building has also equally reached that point where I don't want to end up building and building and building, and years later walk down a world, not to judge myself for how badly my buildings were, but mostly to see how far I've come. You know, the daily medicine I need to keep myself sane and to not feel completely horrible about how my building is. Just 90% horrible most of the time. So yeah, I don't want to walk through those worlds, and I walk by dozens. Okay, let's be realistic, it's not dozens, it's getting there. Let's say 6, yeah, about 6 builds or so, and feel nothing from them. Feel like they weren't even a check mark off a list of things to build, and more like a structure to fill the space that I thought needed filling, because I don't want my world to have a singular house or structure and still have the audacity to call myself a builder. And so my builds have stopped feeling like they say anything. They stopped feeling personal. And now when I finish building, it's more like I completed a structure again, but there's nothing being said. The structure, obviously, buildings don't speak, but there's no emotion attached. And now it's finally settling on that white silhouette of a Pokemon, where it not only may be on the off chance in a different world, on a different lifetime, maybe it looks even remotely creative, but it also has emotion tied to it. I want to be able to walk by the builds and say, yeah, I know exactly what inspired this build, and I can actively relive the memory of how I started this build, why I started this build, and how I finished and how I felt afterwards. So I guess my buildings are actively trying to become a journal entry, a diary or journal entry, kind of like how this feels like, where it's less about building something cool to fill the space and pass on the time so I can still get to call myself a builder without feeling guilty that I haven't built anything substantial, but to become a visible, physical note to myself of where we are or where we were at, maybe where we still are, what we're still struggling with, or what we've gotten over. Frustrations, happiness, and all that messy stuff. Yeah.